Want to meet the fastest monkey in the jungle? Check out Diddy Kong Racing for Nintendo 64. Not your everyday racing game, this one is chock full of exploration, wild adventure and excitement. Your old pal Diddy Kong and 7 other characters speed through 20 beautiful 3D courses with rivers, waterfalls, tunnels, canyons.
Today we are going to be exploring 8 things you didn't know about DKR. This is in no particular order. Number 8. Diddy Kong Racing originally started life as a real-time strategy game that featured time travel and cavemen. Often what happens during development is companies will begin to do small-scale experimental prototypes to find a gameplay loop that feels satisfying. As time passed, Rare decided to abandon the RTS idea and settle on creating a racing game as they had some experience in this department. This is because they developed a game called RC Pro AM for the Nintendo Entertainment System. The idea behind it was that it would be called Wild Cartoon Kingdom. Characters were going to race around a theme park. The tracks themselves would be the attractions. This honestly sounds like an awesome game, and I'm a bit sad it was never realized. This project then morphed into Pro AM 64, which would be a loose sequel to the RC Pro AM series, featuring Timber the Tiger as the main character. Shigeru Miyamoto was shown the project and suggested that Rare use Diddy Kong instead, as it was a more recognizable character from the Donkey Kong Country series, which was massively popular at the time and also developed by Rare. Rare agreed, as they thought it would give the game a better chance of being successful. They weren't wrong. Diddy Kong Racing received a Guinness World Record for being the fastest-selling video game of the time, with 800,000 copies sold in the first month of its release, becoming eventually the N64's 8th best-selling title. Number 7. Diddy Kong Racing had a canceled sequel called Donkey Kong Racing. It was in development for the GameCube system but was abandoned in August of 2002, 1 month before Microsoft had finalized its purchase of Rare for £375 million. It was designed to be a loose follow-up to Diddy Kong Racing, as there were many different changes planned for the title. In a trailer that dropped in 2001 for the Space World Convention, we get a decent idea of what the game would have looked like. To be shown off at the convention means that it was far along in its development before it was canceled. You can see from the footage that the game was going to be ditching the vehicles in an effort to have the original animal companions from the Donkey Kong Country series used instead. It looked pretty interesting with the underwater racing aspects. A shame to see it canceled, as I'm a pretty big fan of these kinds of crazy racing titles. Number 6. Diddy Kong Racing had a story. A lot of players never realized that there was a huge story laid out in the instruction manual. Back in the day, a lot of N64 titles had put additional information in these manuals. While I intend to do a video later that covers this lore in detail, a short summary is, Timber the Tiger's parents go visit their friends the Kongs on holiday, leaving their son in charge of the island while they are away. Meanwhile, an evil intergalactic villain named Whizpig arrives at Timber's island. He begins enslaving many of the island's creatures to do his bidding. Timber sends out messages to Diddy, who is his old friend, for help. Diddy enlists Banjo and Conker to join him on this adventure. They make their way to Timber's island, where we are introduced to a few more of Timber's friends. Timber's island was known for having many different marvelous racetracks, but they have all been sealed off by Whizpig's magic. With the help of Taj, a genie who resided within the mountain, they are able to slowly undo the seals and race their way towards finally challenging Whizpig. Beating him will cause Whizpig to return to his home planet of future Funland. Timber and the others fear that he will continue to harass them, so they challenge him to a race on his home planet. Defeating him here will cause Whizpig's racing machine to malfunction and crash him into the moon, though the post-credits scene implies that he makes it out fine, leaving room for a potential sequel. The story overall was not shown on the N64 version, but for the re-release on the DS in 2007 there were some new cutscenes put in place. However, some of the characters had been changed. Number 5. Diddy Kong Racing had unique anti-piracy features installed. Like most Rare titles, Diddy Kong Racing implemented unique additional layers of protection to make sure bootleg copies of their games didn't make it onto the market, as well as sliding in some annoying issues if the wrong chips are detected. In DKR's case, the following occurs. When the game is powered on, it'll immediately check for the correct lockout chip. NTSC cartridges contained a CIC 6103, and PAL cartridges contained a CIC 7103. If a different lockout chip is detected, the pause menu will constantly show up once players are in-game. It's just one of those things that Rare did to mess with people who tried to bootleg their titles. Number 4. The Nintendo DS version had a lot of changes. One of the major changes was that cheats no longer existed. But Diddy Kong Racing didn't do cheats like regular games. Called magic codes, the players would receive them randomly in the credits after beating the adventure. These codes fundamentally changed how the game could play. Honestly, being able to look back at this and see what the programmers were able to accomplish is truly fascinating. You have codes like Joint Venture, which when entered into the game, it unlocks the ability for a second player to join in on your save file and play co-op mode with you through the adventure. That's huge. And many people throughout the 90s had no idea this even existed. Some other great codes were Time to Lose, where Ultimate AI was unlocked. This made the CPU's race substantially better, increasing the overall difficulty of the game, as well as my personal favorite cheat, Double Vision, which enabled two players to be able to use the same character. Now nobody can complain that you have an advantage. Overall, there's a lot of cheats available for unlocking and modifying how the game plays, which gives the game a ton of variety and replayability. Honestly, more games nowadays should be doing this. It's just a lot of fun. Number 3. DKR had some unused vehicles in the code. The one that is most interesting looks like a hover ship. It basically looked as if it was a cart without wheels. It would control like a mixture between a plane and a hovercraft. It was most likely cut as to not have too many different types of vehicles, and the plane already existed, thus it really wasn't too unique. Number 2. Crunch the Kremling is an interesting character that stands out in DKR, not just in lore, but also in the fact that he was the only other character apart from Diddy Kong that Nintendo owns the rights to. This is because of the Kremling species being a part of the Donkey Kong Country universe. Every other character that appeared in the series is now owned by Microsoft. You can see more of the rights information at the time attached to the game manual. Being part of the Kremling species means he works for King K. Rool, which is Donkey and Diddy Kong's nemesis. So it was always strange for people to see Crunch appear in this title working with Diddy and Timber against Wizpig, who was trying to take over the island. However, the real reason was first revealed in the instructional booklet, which stated, "Seeing Diddy Kong rush off so suddenly makes the Kremlings very suspicious. So Crunch goes bounding after him to make sure that there aren't any anti-Kremling plots in the works." Diddy Kong, Timber, and company don't exactly trust him, but Crunch insists he's only there to lend a hand. This goes to show that Crunch isn't there to help them simply out of the goodness of his heart, but to make sure Diddy Kong isn't planning any moves against King K. Rool. This is further confirmed in a cut scene that only appears in the DS version of the game, which shows Crunch and another Kremling spying on Diddy Kong. When Diddy runs off with a group of characters, Crunch panics and follows him. Nintendo Power Issue 103 offers another explanation for why Crunch is helping out. Crunch may be a Kremling, but he doesn't like the thought of the Wizpig upstaging Captain K. Rool. So he's doing his best to free the island. Honestly, for these reasons, I think Crunch is great. What an awesome backstory. He's just a simple Kremling that doesn't want his boss looking bad. I've always been hopeful that one day he'll show up in another racing title. Maybe even Mario Kart. It's far-fetched, but one can hope. Number 1. Speaking of Microsoft buying Rare, Conker and Banjo were removed from the remake for the DS. What makes these characters also unique is they appeared in DKR before they had their own respective titles. Banjo-Kazooie and Conker's Bad Fur Day. They were replaced in the remake by Dixie Kong and Tiny Kong. It's possible that we are seeing bridges mended between Rare and Nintendo, as Banjo-Kazooie was seen appearing in the latest Super Smash Bros. Game for the Nintendo Switch, with rumors swirling about a potential sequel for Diddy Kong Racing on the horizon. Stay tuned to the channel for new content. That's been all for this video. I hope you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you like the content. Leave a like on the video. It helps the channel out heaps. Thank you to everyone who has been subscribing and leaving positive feedback. It means the world to me. See you in the next one.